So today I'll be talking about the power of having a speak up culture, having environments where employees' voice is welcome, and it's really good for business.
Wow.
What? Okay, red light means we're on. And we're live. We're live. We're live. We're here. We're here. We're live. Live from our basements. Hello, LinkedIn universe. So good to have so many of you here. Hello, everyone. Steven Shadletsky here. Delighted to be with you again. Hey, we're here. We are live. Joined by my great friends Bryan Wish and Carson Morell. How are you two fine gentlemen doing today?
Good.
Oh, great.
Things are good. Glad to be here.
Nice, amazing. For those of you who have yet to tune in to one of our lives, I'm Steven Shadletsky. You can call me Shed, and delighted to be here with Bryan Wish and Carson today. Oftentimes when I have guests on, they are thought leaders, authors. These two fine gentlemen, Bryan and Carson, have built a newly rebranded organization called Arcbound, which we'll be talking about today. And they often support those thought leaders and authors, myself included. I work closely with them. So caveat, asterisk, I definitely work closely with these two gentlemen and their amazing team, and we're going to talk about it. But it's neat that oftentimes I speak to thinkers. Today, we're very much speaking with practitioners. As I have been working on my ideas with speak up culture and writing a book on speak up culture, these two men and their amazing team have been hugely supportive in brand foundation, brand design. My website is because of Arcbound and their team. The development of my book, I'm working very closely with Ariel on their team as a research and writing partner. I simply wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for Bryan and Carson and their amazing team at Arcbound. And I love speaking with them because they are in the weeds practicing both operating a business, supporting thought leaders and authors. And as they've just rebranded their company, Arcbound, which we're going to speak about, they reached out to me and said, hey, we didn't necessarily, I mean, one of their values at Arcbound is speak up, but they've attributed certain pivotal moments in the history of their company that their transformation, their survival has very much been due to a speak up culture. And so we thought, hey, why don't we talk about Arcbound, their rebrand, their relaunch, and these sort of pivotal moments where a speak up culture helped to make what their company is today. So how's that for an intro, gentlemen? And anything else you want to add on, and then we can dive in and talk about sort of those pivotal moments, anything else that comes up. And everyone who's joining, hop into the comments, say hello, let us know where you're joining us from, and please do make comments and ask questions of us as we go along here. Bryan, happy to pass over to you just for some opening comments, and Carson as well, and we'll get going.
Thanks, Steven, and appreciate the kind words. We've thoroughly enjoyed working with you and alongside you. You are a class act when you come up in team conversations behind the scenes. So we love working with you. But I think the same would be said, just as you said, we've impacted you. I think it's about, you've also had a tremendous impact on Carson and myself, my life for the last 5 years. And we've built such an incredible foundation that you've really led the way in. And we're so grateful for you and just appreciate being here.
Thank you. Love it. For those of you who don't know, Bryan and I met, Bryan, it was probably 7 or 8 years ago now. Is that right? When were you a senior in college?
2014 and 15.
So it's 2014. So yeah, it's been a hot minute here. And you wrote into the team at Simon Sinek. I was leading customer service at the time, and you were at a crossroads. What do you do post graduation? And I was leading a mighty team of 2 people on customer service. I was one of those 2, and the person who I was working with got your email and said, it was actually a Facebook message, wasn't it?
It was a Facebook message, yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, I don't know what to do with this. I read it, and I'm like, I see myself in this person. and we had a conversation from there, and the rest is kind of history. So you and I have been intertwined together for close to a decade, which is amazing, and it's been so cool seeing your career and trajectory just take off.
Well, thank you. You played a major role in it, and so has
Thank you.
Carson.
I appreciate that. Carson, any opening comments or anything from you? And seeing some everyone join in here in the comments, which is fantastic. But yeah, Carson, over to you.
No, just yeah, glad to be here and excited to dive in. I think, as you said, we found that a lot of what's led to us getting to where we are is a speak up culture, and through the work that you do, it's been interesting to see the synergies and alignment. So excited to share some stories.
Giddy up. Amazing. Hey, Barry in St. Louis, great to see you. Scott, hello from Austin. Jump on it. Last time I saw you, we were in Armonk, New York. Good to see you here, Scott. Ariel is here. Hey, Ariel. I referenced Ariel previously. I'm working very closely with Ariel on my book, so thank you. Chelsea and Indy. We have Colombia in the house. Carolina, Manchester, UK. Amazing. And LinkedIn user from Morristown, New Jersey. Another LinkedIn user. This one I know, Alex Zaharis. Who is ever from Morristown, let us know your name if you'd like, because we can't see it here in the portal on StreamYard. So I think a neat place to start, if you guys are cool with it, is, Bryan, you had a few experiences in your career. You're sort of backed into an idea for a business that kind of culminated a bunch of experiences for you working in publishing, supporting an author who I believe was Alan Gannett. I could be getting that wrong, but you kind of had an idea. I think there's a business here. And then sort of take us through the origin of the business, meeting Carson, and then some sort of pivotal moments that has got you to where you are today.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. I appreciate it. For me, I had always wanted to do something I believed in. Why I reached out to you 7 years ago and mix passion and profit and do it in a way that was aligned and right. So I set out on a journey after college to take on a set of experiences that were clues into what was aligned. One of those clues was working with Alan Gannett, as we discussed or you mentioned, on his book launch. And what I truly realized during that experience was it was so much more than a book launch. It was building a personal brand. And the more I got in, I was managing a lot of pieces of it, managing a lot of different vendors. And I said about 6 months in to myself, there has to be a way to build an end-to-end solution to support some of the brightest minds in the world, from establishing a message to writing their book to getting it out there, and then building their products and services along the way so they can go and build multi-million-dollar businesses. And we set out on that vision after Alan's book launch in 2017, started in the fall of 2018. And about a year into the journey, my friend said, you got to meet this kid at this coffee shop. He's been there since high school. He hasn't missed a day of work in 5 years, and he's there every day at 5 a.m. I'm like, okay. So I meet Carson at the cash register. I start messing around with him in typical, fashion. And he asked, we started to get lunch, and lunch turned to a internship, turned to a partnership. And Carson's been a critical force in bringing the business together in a way that just matches my unique gifts. So it's been a long road, a lot of significant contributors along the way, but I've somehow managed to put all my skills together and a vision and work on it with Carson and just an incredible team.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, there's as individuals we're junk, but together we're quite remarkable. We each have our own set of strengths, but we also have weaknesses and blind spots. And so knowing the both of you, I mean, Carson, your feet are firmly planted on the ground in practicality and how is this actually going to work? And Bryan, you're more head in the clouds, visionary ideas, creative. I mean, you definitely have an amazing work ethic and can get stuff done. But I think, much like me, you're more of the creative idea entrepreneur, whereas Carson, you're very much that COO, make it real, make it happen. So that marriage between that diversity of strengths that I think is so important in building a great partnership and building a great team. Comments on that, and then I'd love to hear more about how Bryan teased you in the coffee shop, Carson.
Yeah, I wouldn't. But on the speak up side of things, I think that that first instance where we kind of went from intern to partnership, that transition was because um, I was speaking up, but because Brian listened, because when I wanted more responsibility, when I wanted more information, when I wanted more decision making power, Brian listened, and that
Mm,
was, I think, the first really important building block in a series of pivotal moments that led to us building a speak up culture. Because when I spoke up, I was listened to 9 times out of 10. I was able to replicate that, and Brian was able to replicate that as we've scaled to where we are today. So, just to add a little bit of context there, I think that was really the first domino.
nice. So when was so Brian, a friend says go to this coffee shop, meet Carson. When was that?
Probably 6 months into the business,
So
in the
so
spring
20.
of probably the spring of 2019. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Confirm or deny? Confirm. And then Carson, how long into the sort of internship, like or turn partnership? When was that moment where you sort of took that risk and spoke up, and what did it feel like?
Mm, good question. I mean, I think the moment where I really started pushing was when I saw the need for what I thought I was capable of, which was truthfully when I saw the our organization of our financials, which was a 20 sheet Google sheet, paying people in Venmo, PayPal, an absolute disaster. And I didn't have
Hey,
any
it worked.
formal.
It worked.
It worked.
Band-Aids
Yeah,
worked.
maybe we were. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how much longer it would have worked, but you know what, it was. And um, I think at that moment, I said, "Hey, you know what? I don't have any training in any of this, but I could certainly figure out QuickBooks and Gusto and put all the pieces together." And so, kind of at the end of rolling out those components, that's where I had built the confidence to say, "Hey, I'm going to keep speaking up and pushing to fix things."
Hmm,
And that's where Brian and I kind of found, I think, our momentum, where I could kind of block and tackle what I felt needed improvement. And so, yeah,
I love
that was
that.
kind of the moment.
Go for it, Brian. And then I'm just laughing on the inside and outside. I'll tell you why after.
Well, I don't want to embarrass Carson, and so hopefully he doesn't get mad at me after. But there were repeated times in this kind of season of early relationship foundation building where I just felt as a leader I could never do enough or ever please him. And like he hit his ceiling and then he asked for more, and he hit his ceiling and he asked for more, and like I loved it, but I always felt like how am I ever going to be enough? And it was
Hmm,
like a good problem to have. And I was at an event with Mark Green, who's our mutual friend in New York, for successful CEOs. And there's a woman there talking about how to incentivize and motivate people based on what they need. And I took some language from a slide about how to motivate what I thought were people like Carson, and I texted them. And I got such a quick response around like what's going to motivate him. And it was like, it was a tale for what was to come. And I think it was shortly after that, Carson, where, um, you know, he knew he could come to me, and he just said, "I want more. I want to be involved." I said, "What do you want to do?" And he just tore through in the best way possible the back end of the business, and then 2 weeks later, pieced it all together with speed, efficiency, and just incredible operational prowess. And
hmm.
I was like, it was in that moment when I was like, this could be a long term relationship here.
Nice. I'm laughing because my head of operations is here behind the scene. You cannot see him, but I'm laughing because we had the very same experience. I mean, he came on board with me in the middle of April, and I showed him my finances and everything behind the scenes of the business on the operations side, and it was the same sort of oh my god. So I appreciate people like you, Carson, because I have one as well on my team who's putting all of our shit in one sock, so to speak. So I love that, which is great. So uh, first and foremost, I think a definition is useful for anyone out there listening. I mean, what is a speak up culture? And I love the Zig Ziglar quote: "People don't buy drills; they buy holes." And so I think the drill is psychological safety, and the hole is a speak up culture. that when you do have psychological safety, what you do get is a speak up culture as an output. And what I'm hearing from the two of you, it started with the two of you, but then you've built it to include more and more of a team, and we'll get to that. But when you do have psychological safety, it means you can raise your hand, talk about uncomfortable stuff, have candor with care, right? Share ideas, even if half baked. Ask for more, right? Carson, you were like, empower me. I want more. Give me more. Even share concerns or disagreements. And so, I mean, so you have, it's that trust, that relationship that helped you lean in, accomplish more, partner better, eventually build a team, which we'll get to. Bryan, I'm curious more around that. Like you said, am I enough? Is that like, are you keeping up as a CEO, co-founder, leader to Carson? Like, can you describe more about what that meant to you? Am I enough in that context, in that time?
Yeah, I think one, I was a different person at the time than I am today. But two, all I wanted to do was create an environment where people could thrive. And Carson kept thriving and hitting his ceiling. And I just never, I didn't know what was the next step. And luckily it was forced in a way that opened the door for a deeper conversation and a deeper partnership to be created. Right. And when you're challenged, your friend, mutual friend Leanne Davey, there was very constructive conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I gained a lot of respect for him through that period because I didn't want to do this alone. And it was never really just about the Bryan show. It was always meant to be something much bigger. Figuring out how to get there has taken a good tandem. And it was awesome to be like, wow, this could be my person. And it has been, pretty good.
Nice. There's also something that's fun that I think people tend to rise to the ceilings that we give them. And so if we give someone a ceiling here and treat them as such, they'll hit it. But what I love, I mean, there's no bucket that we each have that says potential on it, and then we fill the bucket and then we're done. There's no reaching our potential. There's no I've reached potential. There's always reaching. There's always more. Potential is infinite. So I love that sort of series of Bryan's ceiling. Oh, I guess I should put the ceiling higher.
Right. And one thing I'll say too, and then obviously I'd love Carson to share his own experience, but
Yeah.
He was very firm about speaking up. But it was also cool because we both shared that same vision for building something that's going to disrupt an industry. It's never just to be just an agency or a book publishing company. We want to be so much more and really stand out. And he bit into that with me. And it was like, wow, we're in this together. We were at the office at 5 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays, like cranking because we believed in something more. And to have that, there's an energy unlike anything I've ever experienced.
Nice. Love that. Yeah. Yeah. Where you're trying to keep up with your other sparring partner, right? That passion is contagious for both of you. Carson, anything else you want to throw in just from this like period toward the beginning and the inception before we talk about sort of what came next in the evolution of Arcbound? And love these comments that are coming in. We'll highlight these in a second.
Yeah. No, I think that about covers it.
Nice. Amazing. My good friend Barry out of St. Louis chimes in here. I'm hearing a lot of complementary partnerships. In those cases, one's strengths are more often not the other's weaknesses. It's an amazing strategy, but there has to be trust, communication for it to work. And, my good friend Rich Davini calls this dynamic subordination, which is based on the context of the issue or opportunity at hand, based on proximity to the problem, based on who's most qualified to step in and step up. It's dynamic, right? It's not necessarily hierarchical. Sometimes there are people more junior on your team that it's theirs to step up and lead because they're closest to the issue and they're the most qualified, not necessarily the most senior, but the most qualified. And being able to dynamically subordinate, or alpha swap, Rich calls it as well, is we need to have the vulnerability to our strengths and weaknesses on our sleeves. And for each of you to know, I'm good at this, I'm not good at this, and to team and to delegate based on strengths, because I think we should amplify strengths and delegate, build awareness around weaknesses, as well as blind spots, and delegate for those as opposed to work on our weaknesses. That sounds like a lot of wasted energy. Love it. And I highlighted it before, but Danny's comment is fantastic as well around speak up culture, creating the environment where questioning, challenging, and vulnerability are natural and encouraged. It's actually against our biology to speak up because it creates cortisol and stress. So it's hard to speak up when we create these environments and culture where it's easier to lean in, or as Leanne Davey talks about with the good fight, seeing that conflict is actually a source of power and strength and allows us to move through. Love it. And Scott with a great comment here as well. Definitely attitude has a direct impact on our altitude. Giddy up. Love that. So anything else here, Bryan and Carson, sort of towards the early inception, and then what happened next in the history of the company? At that time, it was probably BW Missions, BW meaning your initials, Bryan. Yeah, keep taking us on the journey and how Speak Up played a role.
Yeah, I could lead here, and then of course Bryan chime in. I think from that point, maybe it was Bryan, myself, and then a collective of incredible part-time or almost full-time people. We were just kind of
They were off Venmo payments by that time, just to be clear.
yes, for the most part.
Noted.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of over the next, I would say, 18 or so months through February 2021, I think we experienced steady growth. We were bringing on new team members, kind of learning as we went with a lot of different things, and navigating all the different challenges as more layers are added to the organization. And we're things, you might prioritize something for a while, but then after 12, 18 months, it kind of falls on the back burner. And so February 2021 was like this moment where we stopped the car and half of it was hanging off the cliff, right? And it was like this: if we go any further without changing something, everything is going to fall apart. I mean, we had really awesome team members who were the business in a lot of regards, and we were at a breaking point, and it was like pump the brakes, emergency session, and we just kind of realized that we need to take all their asks, all their feedback right now and roll it out as quickly as possible, or we're not going to be in a good spot. And that was definitely a tough couple of months, but we came out of that, and I would say that was like a more permanent correction that has now stuck with us, where we're and this goes back to me. I'm kind of, not in a bad way, hopefully confrontational, and not afraid to like confront issues or topics that might be uncomfortable. And so now we take a more confrontational approach to issues so that we can face them head on before they come an issue. And if it comes up once, other people are probably thinking about it. So I think that was like the real pivotal moment where it stuck more, because it wasn't just impacting Bryan and myself, it was impacting people with mortgage payments and rent and cars and kids and all these things. And it was just so much more important. Ashley, jumping in here. Yes, I remember it well.
Yes,
Yes, she does.
Yeah, Ashley, a key member of the team and leadership team as well. So Carson and Bryan are not making this up. This is real. And I love that. I mean, the sort of head-on approach of, part of a speak up culture is not attacking people, but attacking ideas. And how can we get to improvement on the other end? Have the real, candor with care, Kim Scott's radical candor, which is challenge directly and care personally. If you challenge directly but don't care personally, you could just be an asshole. If you don't, if you care personally but don't challenge directly, you can just be nice as opposed to being kind. Kim Scott's work on radical candor is great there. Bryan, I want to hear from you. Then I want to hear more, if you guys are willing to share, sort of what was going off the rails, or like, can you help give the characteristics of making that car almost fall off the cliff? But Bryan, I want to give some.
Yeah.
If you wanted to chime in here, yeah.
So we were a very small company at the time, and there's a kind of a sequential series of events that led to a lot of actions. First, we lost about $10,000 a month in MRR, and at that time, that was a significant amount of revenue. And first off, it showed, hey, there was a problem. Like, there were clients who dropped, And one of our clients, Rob Volpe, who we both know and love, he had some serious discussions with us about our operating model. And I remember then, like, the next morning, Carson mapped out this whole organizational structure and this pod system for how we were going to have each client a tailored team. And it's a big puzzle, and I was so impressed, and there were how this was going to work, how it was going to scale. And I looked at it, and it just looked like a piece of art, and I was like, wow. And what that was also alongside Margie, who has been an incredible force for us on the writing side. Margie, we were having this trouble, and I think Carson can speak to this. She reached her capacity, and she couldn't do more, and she just hit her breaking point. And luckily, she's still around today. We are so grateful for everything she's done. But there was a close call, and we had to figure out, based on some of Rob's feedback, Margie was telling us where we were going, what we needed to change. And then there's also during this period where it's like, oh, wow, we need to sustain the business. We need to figure this out. So I exported my mailing list off of MailChimp, and I reached out to probably 350 people to set up one-on-one conversations. And it was the first time I had told people what we were doing. And a lot of people said, great idea, messaging. We have no idea what you're doing. And that's what precipitated this rebrand. And so it was this kind of, it was this moment that had I think 3 very significant openings for us where we just followed the steps.
Yeah.
And the way I saw Carson able to just put the pieces together, it was unbelievable. And because there was no ego, people could speak up, like Margie and Rob and other people, and we could all just work towards the same vision in a very harmonious way.
Nice. There's 2 pieces I'm writing about this now. There's 2 pieces that get in the way for people speaking up. One is fear, and the other is apathy. So fear is, I don't think it's worth the risk. You sort of do your voice calculus, right? The voice meaning is it worth it for me to speak up here? Risk to my relationships, risk to my reputation, risk to my job. Apathy is, even if I speak up, it's not going to make a difference. And so there's no such thing as a perfect leader, never met one. No such thing as a perfect organization, never worked in or with one. The telltale sign of an organization or relationship that has a healthy speak up culture is it feels like it is worth the risk to speak up, that you feel that on the other end of it is improvement, right? So for Margie or for Rob to share that feedback, it's actually an investment in the relationship, right? And it's a sign of health in that speak up culture. Doesn't mean that things are perfect, never will be. But when people take that risk and share feedback, it's actually because they believe in you, which I love. And it's sort of a nice reframe. It's not an attack. It's actually meant to help you improve. So Carson, I'd love to hear anything else just in terms of how you aware things were hopping off the rails, and then that February 2021 conversation that Ashley remembers well, sort of what happened in that and what changes happened from that.
Yeah, I think a couple things. One were things we were doing wrong, and the other half is things we weren't doing, but we were, considering doing for a long time. And so the things we were doing wrong, I think just capacity management, making sure that we had balance across our team and we were managing workload. So we didn't have people working more than 40 hours a week and, getting emails on the weekend. So putting in guidelines was important there. Making a couple hires to spread out the workload and make sure everybody was able to find a healthy balance. I think those were immediate changes that we made, and along with, as Bryan mentioned, some restructuring on an organizational level. The other side is things that we had been hearing. We were small, so we were trying to keep things tight, but compensation. There's a lot of people on the team, and there was definitely room to give people more. Not room, but room in the sense that that's what they deserve. That's what they were earning. We were doing our best to make that happen. But it was okay, we need to do this. We can figure out how to do it later, but we need to take care of everyone. And then with that was benefits. So we rolled out full coverage, health, dental, and vision immediately for founding team members. We found opportunities to give them skin in the game with equity for paid time off. We rolled out an unlimited PTO policy, but with a minimum, so people actually take the time off. And
Nice.
so
That's key.
things like that. And it was a culmination of things that had come up, but we're like, oh, maybe we'll deal with it when we need to. And so we kind of just hustled to get it all in order as quickly as possible, and we didn't lose anybody through that. And then so as things come up, even if it's the first time, usually my rule of thumb with feedback is I wait to make any sudden changes until I hear it twice. But when it comes from the team and it has to do with their well-being, once is enough, and that's kind of been the rule of thumb. And like to date, things like 401k and matching and health savings accounts and things that we're working on now, those came up once and we started working on it, and that's what's allowed us to kind of keep that momentum and stay ahead to the best of our ability.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, a great culture isn't just about the feeling; it's also about these programs and initiatives that support people holistically, which I love. I also love that you've instituted it's an unlimited PTO policy, but with a required minimum. So it's
Right.
responsible freedom. You still got to get your work done. However, there's a great post from my friend Zach Mercurio yesterday, sharing that, and Zach is literally a professor of purpose out of Colorado. Um, he shared that unlimited vacation policies don't work because there's this guilt and stigma of actually taking time. And so I love that it's unlimited, but with a minimum. I think that's really cool. That's a nice dynamic. I haven't heard of that before.
And I will say that component, I'd like to say we started out of the gate with the minimum, but that came from the team too. After some time of experiencing that and realizing, hey, even if we say, hey, make sure you're taking time, if there's not some sort of enforceable metric, it doesn't get there. And um, one of Brian and I's core beliefs with just the team is making sure everyone has the resources at work to make sure stress doesn't follow them home, and making sure they have the resources at home so home stress doesn't follow them to work. And so we're always trying to kind of maintain that balance through these different things as we're able to.
Which I think is really important, particularly in this now era through pandemic ongoing, but with remote and hybrid work, oftentimes there is no difference between home and work, so that bleeding isn't separated by a commute anymore, which I think is really important to know. Yeah, Brian, what you got here?
Yeah, I just want to add to this. I mean, Carson says that's one of our core beliefs. I think that's become a core belief of mine. And I think one of the issues I've had as a leader is, I don't always realize the impact I have on other people because I'm beating down the door so fast and hard all the time. And Carson kind of has to pull me back when I'm maybe impulsive and help me realize how that's impacting people on the team. And it's hard when you're so used to just building and going as fast as you can. And I think in an aligned way, but it's really been super helpful to have someone. And that's why I think, whose comment here? Scott's. Um, but it's been really nice to have someone pull me back and help me see the bigger picture. And it's been a mutual partnership in that sense, but I can also help him see the bigger picture on like where we need to go, but also realize the pace that's required to do it. And the fact that it's our team who makes it possible, not me.
Nice.
And I think that's been a hard learning for me and something I think I'll always work on.
Nice. Love that. Amazing. And a couple great comments, a number of great comments coming in here, which I love. Here's a great one from Barry. I had a similar situation and was amazed by how shared sacrifice and mission brought everyone together in amazing ways. Hope you guys had a similar experience. And Barry, I know you also come from a military background, so maybe a nod to some experience there. Okay, so this big sort of intervention, let's call it, this sort of come to Moses moment in Feb 2021. Some key changes around like more holistic employee well-being, changing in the operating model to better serve clients. I'm hearing sort of anything else there, and then what's sort of the next pivotal speak up moment, because I know another one, which is, I believe, culminated in this rebrand as well. And then let's see where else this conversation takes us and what other comments and questions come in from our amazing participants here.
Yeah, I think there's one kind of like sub story there between February 2021 and the the rebrand, which was kind of like the whole team speaking up and kind of working together really in a more positive light. Not that this isn't all positive, but it would stem from something positive as well. But that in between component is because of what happened in February, because we shifted to investing heavily in our team and putting our team first, no matter what, all the time. We hit some turbulence, maybe July to August that year, just growing pains, and things kind of fell out of alignment, let's say, for the business. And it was the first time where, not the first time, but it was kind of the first moment where it was like, hey, we could scale back a little bit with the team. And we're like, why would we've invested so much, we love the hell out of everybody on the team, and it doesn't, like, we'll figure it out. We had put so much into the team, and it's, you hear it's hard. It's like, oh, you hear people tell you like, oh, in those moments, just do what you need to do and make the hard decisions. But I think because of how we had shifted our perspective, we've been able to keep all of our incredible people on the team and adjust our priorities. And we always invest back into growth and, again, keeping the team. But I think that was the moment where we had proved it to ourselves, like, hey, we really have made a pivotal change in the way we view the team and the business, and kind of stuck true to that new value through that time. And that's the reason we have incredible team, 95 year over year, 95% year over year employee retention, is because we put our people first. And so that was like that validating moment, I think, for us. Like, wow, naturally, our first gut instinct was to like stick with the team and figure it out,
Nice.
even if it meant missing out on some other things. So I just wanted to share that there. But flash forward to, I would say, around that same time, the conversation started, but really later in 2021 is when we had some dialogue going about BW Missions, the name of the business, what it meant, and where we were going. And maybe, Bryan, you could take it from here, and then I could fill in after that.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I want to echo what Carson just said is we've never been an organization to make short-term decisions, and it's never been about the numbers over the people. And so if something happens, okay, where do we need to cast the line, and how do we get there has always been the question. And no mountain's been too high for us to climb, and I don't think ever will be. We'll hit our hard moments, but we know we can create a plan and figure it out. And I think we have that confidence in ourselves where, hopefully we can stay true to that value. I know it gets harder as you get bigger, but I think we have good values in the right place to adhere to. So I just wanted to echo that. And then the name change, I think Carson, this was actually another speak up moment, actually not in our pre thing. I remember Carson, we were getting feedback on the website and the name, and he was kind of like, yeah, like, this doesn't feel premium. We're building a premium brand, but what we have doesn't reflect that. Your name will, like, BW Missions will need to go. Like, we're going to do something disruptive. This isn't just a mom and pop shop. We're going to build something massive and special. And, like, on one end, it's like, yeah, you got to let go of your ego. On the other end, it's like, oh yeah, it's like this baby is going to get bigger and turn into something, and you got to be okay with that. But again, we aligned again because he helped me see it in a perspective that was so objective and like, what's the facts? So, it's been that continual push to help us get to where we want to go and figuring out, okay, what's the plan that we need to go create to do it?
Nice. Awesome. Love that. Anything else there before? There's a great question here and a comment from Scott I want to highlight. Anything else, both of you, on that and the name change, and anything else, speak up before we...
Yeah, there was one actually comment by someone who talked about creating a speak up culture from the bottom.
Yeah.
Something else, I thought that was really interesting, that we've tried to tell every single person when they onboard, like, the best ideas come from the bottom, or the people who have the direct line of focus with their hands in the weeds.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who should be bringing ideas to attention. And I've always prioritized that because I've had experiences in my career before this was full time where maybe that wasn't prioritized. And I've realized that's the way to scale an organization faster. And people feel so much more empowered. So I love that comment. I just wanted to echo.
Yeah, there's brilliant work by David Marquet on Turn the Ship Around, of how leaders can move their authority to where the information lives. Oftentimes, people more junior in the organization are closest to the customer, are closest to the end user, the problem and the solution. So I love that. Here's another one. I know, Bryan, you've also thought about this quite a bit. So Scott asked, I'd be curious to know about how it was hard to launch yourselves as thought leaders while you were building an organization that is on a mission to do the same for others. I have to imagine that the speak up culture was critical to adjusting dynamically to marketing and company conditions. I know, I've seen, Bryan, you've been outspoken on your own Twitter and some of your own socials on the fact that you do this work for others. How can you also do it in your own right? As individuals, as well as Arcbound as a company as well?
Yeah. So that's a great question, Scott. It's been something that I've slowly grown into, and also want our whole team to do. We need to eat our own dog food as a company. Everything I've done for myself, we sell, and we've made the processes a whole lot better. There's definitely an internal discussion right now around just scaling my stuff up. But we built the machine to do it, and I've wanted it to be very authentic, not just be out there to be out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so over the next coming months, they'll scale up fairly significantly. But we've wanted to take our time, put our clients first before we reinvest back into the team members. And I think now we have a brand to do it under and a foundation where it makes sense. But it's been very thoughtful and deliberate in the way we've done it. And but it's a wonderful question. Carson and I have had talks about one day him being out there, because I think it makes a lot of sense. Ashley on our team who speaks up. We want our team to have a voice and eat the dog food of what we do for clients. That would be a dream to help them build out their brands. So, Carson, what would you say?
Well, I was just going to add in before we hear from Carson. I mean, Ashley came to mind. I know she has an amazing podcast. Is it called Unexpecting? Yeah, which is, Ashley's doing amazing work, sharing and highlighting her experiencing and that of others with loss of a child through pregnancy as well. So she's doing amazing work there. Yeah, Carson, anything else there? And then we're going to wrap up in a few minutes here. So if anyone has final comments or questions, please throw them in now.
No, I think on that, I don't have anything to add. I would love to answer Danny's question that he had there. That we have
around speak up culture.
Yeah, about doing this again. Yeah, this question right here. I think absolutely. I think more intentionally from the start, right? I think we accidentally did it the first time, let it fall on the back burner, wake up call, and then it became part of what we were doing. But yeah, intentionally from day one, I think that would be the first thing that I would lead with. I think from a managerial perspective as well, I think the confidence that comes from giving people, the reassurance that they can speak up and be heard and see change transfers over to the willingness and excitement to take on new responsibility, make decisions on their own. And so I think it's even freeing because you're not the only, it translates over to a lot of shared decision making power, I feel like. And so I think that would even help an organization grow faster from the start. So yeah, hands down, any and every organization, I think, should heavily consider that.
Yeah. One thought that just came to mind that I'm just chewing on right now is around surprises. That I think part of a healthy speak up culture on both ends, that if your people are speaking up and it's a complete shock to you, failure on leader. Similarly, if the leader's making an announcement about something new and it's completely shocking and a surprise to the people, fail on leader. I think, vulnerability isn't about sharing everything all the time. That can be oversharing. But I do think, I think leaders ought to ask their people and encourage them to speak up, so it doesn't have to make such a courageous act to be like, I'm drowning and you haven't noticed, leaders self-critique, leaders ask ask openly about what's going on. And then similarly, how can leaders responsibly bring their people along the journey of change, such that when things are announced officially, there's not a huge shocking surprise. I don't think people fear change so much as they do fear big swooping change that came out of nowhere. So just a couple of thoughts there. There's any comments or thoughts on that, you two, before I highlight one more from Scott here?
I think just your last point is a really good point. I think we've definitely, even on a small scale, abruptly brought up changes, and being able to ease into those is definitely an area of improvement for us, but B, something that has helped when we have improved.
And what are the systems and rituals and practices put in place such that it doesn't get to a breaking point with someone on the team, that we're checking in and asking questions and getting a pulse, such that it isn't to the point of I'm burnt out and I'm breaking and my best option is to quit. Like, how can we get ahead of that through our relationships with our people, so that it's not a surprise and we can support them. Another great comment here from Scott around paid time off, and it ends with a good question here. So the enforcement in traditional time off policies is the use it or lose it. People get notified that they are going to lose the time, and that becomes the mental trigger to take the time off, which is interesting. Unlimited paid time off removes that generally, and people often forget they have the time to take. There's also, I've seen from Zach Mercurio, and check it out, I'll link into this after, but he just made a great post on this, that unlimited paid time off, it's like it's a negative reward the more you take, because you're viewed as lazy and not committed to the team. So that can be a negative impact of an unlimited PTO policy. Love the enforced minimum. Can I assume you have an equal policy of no work while on vacation? What say you, gentlemen, on that question from Scott?
Yeah, I think we've definitely set the tone that if you're on vacation, you're on vacation. You're not to be working. We definitely have team members who are heavily involved in the day to day, and there might be some things pulling them in. And so we've talked about doing little things like delete your email app, don't bring your computer with you, don't block us on whatever, like things to just draw the lines. I don't think we've run into any issues where I'm getting emails from someone who's so excited to be working on their vacation. At the end of the day, our team works really hard when they're on, and so I think there's just a mutual understanding that you take the time for you, and if you're out, you're out, that's kind of where we're at. But we haven't formalized anything. I just don't think we've needed to.
It is something interesting in the future of work, though, of around I think we're kind of normalizing, you're on a resort, on a beach, or taking vacation wherever you are, but you're still checking your email for 90 minutes a day. And is that okay, or is that awful? I don't know the answer to that. I could argue maybe that'll be a good debate for an upcoming LinkedIn Live, is arguing what does time off actually mean and look like. I could argue both ends of, is it really vacation when you come back from a week or 2 weeks off and you have 3,500 emails to go through. Anyway, a different conversation for a different day, perhaps. But Bryan, any other thoughts there? I get the sense you have something to throw in here.
Oh no, I mean, I think to Carson's point. Well, I mean, to Carson's point, we definitely try and make people feel like they can take time off and not feel like they have to. I think at the beginning there was this perception I couldn't take time off. I think now it's becoming much more normalized that, hey, this is a real company. We're going places, and you're going to be able to have a normal work-life balance, ideally.
Yeah.
I find that really hard for me. I think there's too much passion and obsession, but I think that's a good thing. So I may not be the best example, but it's protecting the team from that, so they don't see that.
Yeah.
That's where my work has to be done. So it's what I think is beautiful about this conversation is at each inflection point and growth point, it's also made Carson, myself, and the rest of the team grow personally and professionally. And I think growth, begets growth.
Yeah. Growth of people also begets growth in organization results as well. I love that. We, becoming a real company and then acting like it and creating systems that represent it, as opposed to just patchwork and paying people by Venmo instead of a broken spreadsheet. So giddy up and kudos to you on that. I'm becoming a legit a legit company. I love that. And yeah, I mean, little things like what my small and mighty team are doing. I mean, it's so easy. Like, you have a thought, you have a brain fart. It's Friday night, it's Saturday, and you're just like, oh, I'll just send it. And it's like, well, how can we build in respect, especially around evenings, weekend, when people are on vacation and time off? And how do we actually treat their inboxes and their message threads with a bit of empathy, and thinking about how it'll be received as well, whether it's a Sunday, a Saturday, an evening, an early morning, or when they're actually on paid time off. So just something interesting to be mindful of as well. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for building something worthwhile for the people that you serve, and all your clients are impact and mission focused as well, which I love. You've cultivated and are building an amazing team that I am so proud to work with and consider myself to be a part of as well. So I'm so delighted that a speak up culture, our work together has helped to make Arcbound better, and I'm so pumped to see where it takes everyone involved. You two, the team, the clients you serve, and quite frankly, humanity. So thank you. Closing words from the two of you before we talk about some upcoming lives we have coming as well.
Just thanks for having us and giving us the space to share these experiences. I think hopefully it was fun for even our team listening in to hear some of these. I'm sure they've heard them in bits and pieces, but it's even helpful for me to be able to articulate it, on a greater scale. So much appreciated.
Love that. Awesome, Carson. And yeah, I think it's such a good thing that, as leaders, we aren't allowed to say we have a great culture. That's not for you to decide. That's for our team to tell us if that is the truth, and for the two of you to have the humility to invite that feedback, to welcome it, and to know that your opinion is but one opinion, and that your team's opinion matters just as much as your own. Bryan, last word to you, my friend.
Well, thank you, Stephen. You played a significant role in our journey and our own growth. And thank you for the work you do. It's normalizing cultures to speak up. There's ripple effects that you'll never know, and intangible outcomes that you'll create through what you're doing. And I know it's just the beginning for you. And I'm so excited to see your own journey unfold the way in a very impactful way.
Love it. Amazing. On the arc, together, apart, and together again. Love it. We have a couple upcoming lives this month as well. Always more coming. We have June 22nd with LGO, Laura Gassner-Ottinger, and we also have on June 30th, Anne Bono with Laura. Will be talking about her book Limitless, her upcoming book Wonder Hell. And on June 30th with Anne Bono, we're talking about a human-centered workplace. So it's going to be a busy June. Hope you'll join us. And as always, you can head over to my YouTube page to watch all the recordings of the lives that we've done. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Some great participation and comments here from Danny and Gary and Scott and Barry. So thank you so much. Hope this was a valuable session for all of you. Do take care. Speak up. And support people as they speak up, listen to them, make them feel heard, and do something about it. Thanks so much, all. Take care and see you soon.